Good morning, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Good Morning Soul. And today, I'm going to be talking about everyone's favorite way to listen to music, everyone's favorite streaming platform. We're talking about Apple Music. And for those who don't know, real quick, Apple Music is Apple's, slightly new, it's been out for like at least a year, I feel like, streaming platform. And unlike, Spotify, where, you kind of have to use the internet, you have to listen to it, Apple Music allows you to just kind of dive into like the entire iTunes library, which is, probably the biggest music library like in history. And you can just download the songs from there, and that's basically it. And for $10 a month, you get to listen to it as much as you want. And, there's some restrictions. Like, for instance, I can't put, like, mixtapes. Like, I'll download, like, free mixtapes legally, like, from the internet. But it won't let me put Apple Music and stuff that I've gotten from the internet on my phone. Like, it will only let me do Apple Music, or it's like none or all, right? So there's a couple restrictions, and there's obviously like some licensing agreements with certain artists where they don't want their shit on Apple Music or they don't want their shit on iTunes. And occasionally I'll get like a movie soundtrack or something, and there's like a couple songs missing that I assume that artist didn't want on that platform. Whatever. But for $10 a month, you get to listen to like the biggest music library whenever you want, and you can download it however you want. And the quality, I would assume, is like about as good as it gets on terms of like streaming platforms. I don't know like the like little details with the difference between the sound quality of Spotify and Apple Music and Tidal and all of that. But for a person who like doesn't have super expensive speakers because I can't afford it, and I don't have a super expensive headset. Either way, if I don't have the right equipment, I'm not going to be able to listen to it in the best quality anyway because I'm too broke. So I might as well, it doesn't really matter like what service I use, right? And there's a couple problems with the platform. Like I said, I really want to be able to listen to these certain songs, but I can't. And, it restricts me from even obtaining those songs. But otherwise, Apple Music, is worth the money for me. So the way I used to download music is I would literally song by song YouTube convert it. Back in the day, my brother had, LimeWire and stuff like that. But I wasn't really into listening to music like that back then. Music was just kind of there. I never was like, oh, let's listen to this. That didn't really come into play until I want to say 2011 for me, 7 years ago. So when I was 13, 14, because I didn't have access to the internet until around this time. So once I had access to the internet, it all changed for me. And I had a couple burnt CDs that I would get from my brother, and I would listen to those while I wrote books and stuff. But you can only listen to the same shit for so long. So, back then, I would YouTube convert literally every song, which was a very tedious process. And, I would obviously, buy, the stuff I really care about or the artists I'm trying to support. But I was a broke boy who didn't, who was trying to use all my money for my collections, and I couldn't, I didn't have a job or anything back then, so I couldn't really support that many artists. And as time went on, I would continue to just kind of YouTube convert everything. And then after that, my brother would show me sites where he would just, download the entire album. And at first, I didn't want to do that because, I felt YouTube converting every single song allowed me to be introduced to the song, see if I like it or not. And I would only have the songs that I'm interested in, or that I was already introduced to. I was gonna say only the songs that I like, but I download a bunch of songs I don't like, because I look at music the same way I look at, all art. Even if it's bad, I'll experience it just so I can grow as a, as a consumer and grow as a product reviewer. That's kind of it's not my job, but it's what I like to do. It's my passion. And I really like discussing art and talking shit about art when it sucks. So obviously listening to bad music allows me to do that. So that's what I was doing for a long time, and eventually, I was listening to so much Needle Drop, Anthony Fantano. Everyone I was watching, the way they listen to music is they listen to albums, right? And that's, the way music is released is albums. That's what people get hyped for. So, at one point I was just like, oh, let me just download this entire album. And then I was like, okay, I might as well just download these albums that I'm missing. Because, back then I would download entire albums, but it would be song by song. There would be a bunch of songs missing because I'd get lazy, or there would just be so many singles, and it would be I would put in the artwork, because artwork is obviously important to me. I would put in the artwork for every album, but then you download more songs, you have to re-put in that album artwork off of the internet. It was just a very tedious, long process, and I didn't really look at the time oh, I'm wasting all this time when I could just download the album, but that's what I was doing. So at one point I was just kind of okay, I like listening to albums now, so I might as well just download the entire album for all of these things. So that's what I ended up doing. And when I switched to my new computer, I knew immediately I'm just gonna download albums. And that's basically what I did. And my music library is pretty. All the artwork is there. There's no missing artwork. All the songs are higher quality. There's not people fucking up and putting little alterations. When people put music on YouTube, a lot of the times it's going through a video, it's being rendered in video software, which that right there is going to change the sound a little bit. It's not necessarily making it a lot worse, but it's different. Even the music I upload to Soul Music, it's going through a video software or a video editing software, and that's going to change it a little bit. And when you listen to these albums, rather than going through that process, whereas you have to download it from YouTube, now the quality is much better, is what I'm trying to say. And there's not little bumpers from people who are trying to put their logos in the front of the song or their watermarks. There's no more bullshit where I would download the music video thinking it would just sound normal, but then the artist made the music video into an act music videos aren't just the song, a lot of the time. They have cuts, I was gonna say cutscenes, but they have other things going on sound-wise. They'll have little intros or stuff like that. And I obviously don't want to listen to those when I'm just turning the music on. So that's how I was listening to music for a while now. I was just listening to the albums, and that worked for me. That's still not a bad way. It's still a very tedious process. Okay, I'm gonna download this album, I'm gonna pull out the files and put them here, I'm gonna open them up one by one. It's gonna open up in iTunes, which I'm using iTunes. I've always used iTunes. I know there's a couple other options. iTunes just works easy for me. It's what I know. There are a couple problems with it. I really wish I could order my albums by the year they came out, stuff like that. I wish I could have back then I would have a song that would be on 2 different albums, and I'd be like, how do I put this on both of these albums without just re-downloading the song? Whereas nowadays I would just re-download the song, but back then I was just kind of how do I have this singular song on 2 albums? iTunes doesn't have an option for that, unfortunately. But then Apple Music came along. A couple of my coworkers are using Apple Music, and seeing them use it, I was kind of a little bit wary of it. I don't really use software like that. I thought there was more of a process to it than, just literally clicking on the album, pressing download, and then suddenly you have the album and you can play it whenever you want, and it's the highest quality. And even those albums I was downloading off of illegal sites, a lot of them weren't the best quality. A lot of them, I assume whoever was putting those albums on that site wasn't always using, they weren't always using the best files or whatever. sometimes the albums were like shitty quality, sometimes the volume would just be like weird, and that was obviously like rare scenarios, but it was something I cared about. And then Apple Music comes along, and it costs $10 a month, but I'm saving a lot of time. Like, all the time that I was downloading these songs, YouTube converting them, going to sites, refreshing the sites every so often to see if they have new albums, I don't have to do any of that more. Now I just look up the song in Apple Music and I have it. And all that really, the only bad side is I can't listen to like a couple of certain things. I can't listen to mixtapes because they're not on iTunes, they're not on Apple Music. Unless they're like big budget mixtapes like Drake or something, where they just put that shit on Apple Music anyway. But I like Apple Music just because it's so simple, and I can't be uploaded to the internet every time I listen to music. Like, when I'm at work, I don't want to use the internet there because the internet's shitty there, and I don't want to use my data just to listen to music. So Apple Music is like best case scenario for me. And I haven't used Spotify that much, so I can't really like compare and contrast it. I don't use Tidal. I've never used Tidal. And what other services are there? SoundCloud, like, I don't really use SoundCloud on my phone like that. I don't use it like, I don't even use SoundCloud unless I'm searching for like new artists, or if I'm like specifically trying to listen to people who are only on SoundCloud. And then, there's other ways to stream music. There's Bandcamp, but I think no one really streams music on Bandcamp. They just buy it. And yeah, so in Apple Music, I have all the album artwork. It's so easy to browse for shit. The only problems, there are a couple other things, like it suggests, like their suggestions aren't that good on like when they try to recommend music. And it's really hard sometimes to search for music. Like, why can't I look at all the rap albums from like this year? Like, I should be able to look that up. But they like only care about like music that came out within like the past 3 years. And anything before that you have to like search for, and it's kind of a bitch. Unless like someone out there already made like a playlist. Unless that is the case, then I have to specifically look up the album. Like, I just want to be recommended old shit a little bit, But other than that, I would recommend Apple Music just for ease of access. I don't like throwing more money into this pit of, like, I don't like throwing my money at this evil corporation. Like, Apple is literally the biggest company on earth. Even Spotify, as shitty and evil as they are to their artists, like, they are still an evil corporation, but at least they're not like, they're not Apple, right? But that little part of my mind is like, oh, I need to support the artists, like, I have to buy these things. At least now I'm throwing them a couple pennies for listening to their music all the time. But at the same time, like, a lot of the people I listen to, like I listen to mainstream shit, and they don't need more money. Like, The Weeknd and Kanye West don't need my money. Kendrick Lamar does not need my money, as great of a artist as he is. He does not need my money. I need my money more than he does. And a lot of these guys, I'm sure, don't give a shit if I listen to their music illegally or on Apple Music or whatever else. Like, you're still supporting them just by giving them your eyeballs. And, like, a lot of the artists who are, like, very small time that I listen to, I support. I will for surely support. Like, if I see a guy struggling and he gave me, like, one of the best albums ever, like Sylvan LeCue, of course I'm gonna buy his shit. Of course I already bought his shit, but you know what I mean. Like, he has great albums and probably needs some money, so I'll give him the money. Just assuming I have it at that point in time, which I don't always do. So, yeah. Anyway, that is my experience with Apple Music. And what is your guys's? Let me know down below. I'll see you guys tomorrow morning. And with that, I leave you.